Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host once again today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras, from the state of California. How is everyone doing this fine Monday evening? I assume, as you can see, hey, it's just going to be me. Well, not just me. It's going to be me and you. It's going to be us here once again talking about conservative news, 2A news and conservative views. And needless to say, there's a whole bunch of stuff for us to catch up on. So let's get right into it. But wait, there's more. We got to spend a minute kind of checking in and doing a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start off with Hitman Industries. If you're looking for a rifle or pistol length barrel, if you're looking for a Glock barrel, the place to go is going to be Hitman Industries at hitmanindustries.net. Finest in barrels that you can find. Check them out. Trust me, whatever you're looking for, they've got exactly what you need. Hit them up at hitmanindustries.net. Remember, they have a first responder discount. Also, we've got the California Republican Assembly, once referred to by former President Ronald Reagan as the conscience of the Republican Party. That's right. We help elect conservatives to all offices from school board all the way up to President of the United States. So please take a moment, check them out at cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, join CRA. And then if you're looking for a tactical holster, if you're looking for a concealed carry holster, inside the waistband, outside the waistband, whatever your setup is, whatever optical you're using, whatever light you may be using, whatever handgun you have, trust me, you will find exactly what you need at hogholsters.com. And in fact, if you go there and use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, you can actually get a nice little discount as well. So check them out, hogholsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, we've got uscombatgear.com. Trust me, they have all the tactical, all the outdoor, all the cold weather and warm weather gear that you need. Everything, pretty much, but the gun. All you got to do is go to uscombatgear.com. They're veteran-owned and operated. Great selection, phenomenal prices, fast shipping. Check them out today. Once again, uscombatgear.com. And now, that gets us on to today's stories. As you know, over the weekend, there was another incident, a mass casual. I don't know if I guess depending on the definition used. If it's 4 people, then it is not a mass casualty event. It's a multiple casualty event. If you use 3 or more people, then it would be a mass casualty event involving firearms. And this occurred in Jacksonville, Florida. There was a gunman, and it is confirmed, and I think everyone now knows and recognizes that this was a situation where dude was, let's just say he was, if he wasn't known to be racist before, he's definitely known to be racist now. And I'll read a little bit from the story here. It says, a white man armed with a high-powered rifle and a handgun killed 3 black people in a Dollar General store in Jacksonville, Florida on Saturday before shooting himself in what local law enforcement described as a racially motivated crime. This shooting was racially motivated, and he hated black people, Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters told a press conference. The suspect, whom Waters described as a white male wearing a tactical vest, was not identified. Waters said all 3 victims, 2 men and a woman, were black. Waters said authorities believe the shooter acted alone and that before the shooting, he had authored several manifestos for media. His parents and law enforcement detailing his hatred for black people. Waters described his weapons as a Glock and an AR-15 style rifle with swastikas on it, referring to a lightweight semi-automatic long gun often used in mass shootings. The hate that motivated the shooter's killing spree adds an additional layer of heartbreak. Now, one of the things that I do want to credit and note the sheriff for is there were a couple of things. Number one, he wanted to make sure to point out that this individual did have a history of mental illness. In fact, he was held on a involuntary hold In California, I think we call that a 5150, but it's basically it's involuntary mental health hold where you are held for up to 72 hours involuntarily, where they determine your mental status. Now, in the state of California, and I'm not sure if that's the case in Florida, if you're held on a 72-hour hold, you lose your right to own or possess firearms for up to 10 years. Now, you can petition to get those back, but you have to prove that you are once again no longer a danger to yourself or others. And I do not once again know if that is the case in Florida, but that was one thing that we did note. The other thing that I think that is worthy of noting was that this individual basically clearly did not. This was not about the gun, right? And he wanted to make sure that he understood that, look, whether it was an AR or a Glock, this is not about the firearm. In fact, he went out of his way to talk about the fact that this is not the gun, but that this is about the individual.
The story is always about guns. People are bad. This guy's a bad guy. If I could take my gun off right now lay it on this counter, nothing will happen. It'll sit there. But as soon as a wicked person grabs a hold of that handgun and starts shooting people with it, there's the problem. The problem is the individual.
So to be clear, this is a wicked individual. Right? This was the wicked individual who appeared to have his challenges with mental illness, and clearly he was racist. I mean, I'm not saying that he wasn't racist. What I find interesting about the idea of the injection of race into this is they made it a point. They included a photo. They've included a photo of the guy. They've mentioned the fact that they mentioned his race, mentioned he was white. They mentioned the fact that it was about hate. This was motivated by hate. I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the manifestos out there. But I want you to contrast this with the Tennessee shooting, where a trans man or woman transitioning to a man, transitioning to a male, female transitioning to a male, went into a Christian school and shot and killed multiple teachers and children. Now, interestingly, number one, the narrative on this entire story. Now, mind you, this was not the only shooting that took place over the weekend. See Chicago. I'll just leave it at that. Just see Chicago. Or you can Google it yourself. It's not the only shooting that took place over the weekend, but this one took precedent largely because, well, it was a white person who shot black people. If it had been a black person, if it had been a black person who shot white people, wouldn't make news. Clearly, according to mainstream media, if it's a black people who shot black people, it definitely ain't making the news. But in terms of when they reported, how they reported, and the motivations, once again, they're focusing on the racism, not the mental health, because, Republicans are the ones who are saying, look, we probably need to rethink how we're dealing with people and their mental health issues. But, therefore we won't go there. We're going to focus on the race. But when it's someone who goes after Christians, all right, because they're Christian, children, because they're Christian, because they have a problem with the position that people of that faith take, all of a sudden, no mention of motivations. We don't get any mentions from the mainstream media of motivations, right? All we get is, once again, talk about guns, and if they could talk about race and discrimination, oh, wait, let's reverse it. Let's talk about how this shooter probably did this because they were bullied and picked on by Christians or by people who didn't buy into their particular perspective or their perspective on transgenderism. I guess I'm saying this is that anyone who goes and does this, I don't care if you are a Christian proclaiming whatever. When you go and you shoot innocent people, that is evil, and that is not consistent with your Christian faith. So that is evil. When you are trans and you go and you shoot people, innocent people, that is bad. When you are a white supremacist and you go and shoot people, that is bad. If you are a black BLM person, I'm not saying a BLM person has done this, but when you are a black BLM person and you go and you shoot people, innocent people, that is evil. And I like what this cop said. I like what the sheriff said. He said, this is about evil people. And what we need to start doing is start passing laws and enforcing laws that will address evil people and the fact that evil people actually do exist. People who seek to do harm to others actually do exist in the real world. They are out there and they really don't care what you think. They don't care. All they care about is, in many cases, all they're looking for is they're looking for easy targets. That is their number one thing. What they care about is, how can I harm people? How can I harm as many people as I can and get in as little trouble as I can possibly get into? That's their primary concern. Those are their primary concerns. They are seeking to harm people. And I don't understand why that is such a hard thing for some Democrats to understand. Okay, wait. Oh, we got Michael chiming in here. Yeah, Michael is with his daughter. He's like, how can I tell you a dad joke how can you tell a dad joke from a regular joke? Mike says, it's apparent. Oh, Mike. Okay, Mike, that was so cheesy, it was actually funny. Thank you so much. That's got to be the cleanest joke you have ever told me. So thank you. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in, Michael Piwowarski. I would never be able to pronounce his name if I didn't talk to him on the regular. But yeah, but think about this. This whole thing that's going on here is they're basically trying to say, well, we can excuse if certain people are doing it. And that's really what they're trying to say. In this particular case, this is inexcusable. All right. This is a very, very bad guy who decided to do a very, very evil thing. And they are coming down on him for it. Once again, for those of you who are watching us on Facebook, we're watching us on OpsLens. I've just posted the link directly to our channel, our Facebook channel, so you can watch us there. I don't know why it does that, it just does, but I'm on it for you. Thank you so much, Patricia George, for letting us know. But yeah, we ought to be focusing on passing laws, on going after people who do evil things, right? Let's focus on people who do evil things and trying to prevent them from being able to do evil things, or at least reduce the impact that they can do when they do decide that they're going to do their evil deeds. But for some, well, it's got nothing to do with evil, because see, their sense of right and wrong, their sense of who is responsible for crime and bad things, it's completely off. It's completely skewed. And I will show you to the city of Chicago. Now, the city of Chicago is suing automakers for car theft spikes. So car thefts have increased there in Chicago, in Chi-Town, in Chirac, and now they are decided that they are going to sue auto manufacturers. But let's check this out. Democratic Chicago leaders on Thursday sued Kia and Hyundai because thieves can break into the company's vehicles. The latest instance of Democrats blaming car makers for spikes in car thefts. The city alleges that Kia and Hyundai failed to install standard technology they knew was effective in deterring thieves, the Chicago Sun-Times reported. Online videos have shown thieves using USB plugs to start the cars, which the city says the car maker could have easily prevented. Chicago officials, including far-left Mayor Brandon Johnson, didn't note that crime has skyrocketed since Johnson took office in May. Overall, crime increased 38% from May to June alone, and the Center Square reported, with car thefts shooting up 153% in May compared to a year earlier. Voters this year elected Johnson, who has called defunding the police a real political goal on a soft-on-crime platform. Now, let's break this down from several aspects. Number one, I should be able to, if I want to, if I decided to leave my car parked on the street with the windows rolled down, unlocked with the keys in it. All right? If I decide to do that, That is my right. It ain't smart, but that is my right. If anybody should decide to reach into that car and take something out of that car, that does not make them any less guilty of stealing. If they should climb into the car and see the keys there and start the car and drive away, not smart on my part, once again, but that does not make them any less guilty of stealing my car. That doesn't make it any less of a crime. I don't understand. See, I need you to understand this. This is not even blaming the victim, but it's like saying, no, here's what it's like. It's if a woman gets raped for wearing a short skirt, suing the skirt maker for making the skirt too short. Because they should have known that skirt should have been longer. That's what it's like. Tell me I'm wrong. Go ahead, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that somehow my thought process on this is crazy. Yeah, no, it's not crazy at all. The point here, once again, is that he doesn't want to accept the fact that when you tell criminals, and by the way, there are some people who commit crimes who are not naturally criminals that if caught, if given the opportunity to turn their lives around, will turn their lives around, right? There are first-time offenders all the time. But there are certain people, and they're a significant number. It's not an insignificant number. I'm not going to say it's most, but I am going to say it's a lot. There's a certain percentage of people who are going to go and continue to commit crimes. In fact, as if you tell them that I'm not going to punish you for this, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go do this. If you tell them that I'm not going to punish you for that, and that's a little bit further, you shouldn't do it, but I'm not going to punish you for it, then they're going to go and do that. If you are now saying that the idea that like I said, once again, if you leave your front door unlocked, someone breaks in, robs your house, it's your fault. It's on you. If the window maker, if someone breaks the window of your home and comes in, well, you know, the people who built the home should have made the window bulletproof or ballistic proof, made it so it couldn't break. This is how Democrat politicians think of crime. If you want to know why, for example, Nordstrom is closing their store, their iconic store in San Francisco, it's because of theft. Why Walgreens shut down all of their San Francisco stores, once again, it's because of theft. It's because Democrats have said, Democrats in blue cities, in blue states, have said that, you know what, crime is not the fault of criminals. And therefore, you will not pay the consequences. You will not be held accountable for the decisions that you make. We got Ray Kemp here is tuned in. He says, why are trying to soften the blow of racism in this event? Here comes the but Chicago argument. This is white supremacy. This is not Chicago crime. Better. Oh, come on, Craig. You got to do better. I'm sorry, Ray. I'm not trying to downplay the effect of racism on this crime. What I am saying is multiple things. Number one is, in this particular case, you hear almost no mention. Literally, only from the sheriff are you really hearing about the fact that this dude had mental health issues. He did. And by the way, people who have mental health issues tend to grab onto extreme ideologies. And by the way, just so you know, racism is, in particular, from what I've heard, I have not read the manifestos, but from these manifestos were extremist, extremely racist things. And it was an extreme ideology, but that's what people with mental health issues tend to gravitate to. So I'm not trying to downplay the effect of racism. What I am trying to say is that this individual is that in many cases like this, I don't understand why in this case the motivation is so out there, But in the case of the Tennessee shooter, it wasn't. Nobody talked about the radicalization from the ideology that individual was intaking. You notice we haven't heard word one about the manifesto that was put out by that individual. And by the way, that individual did put out a manifesto. So, Ray, I'm not trying to downplay the fact that this dude was a flat-out racist. I'm just saying that if we're going to talk about extreme ideologies that motivate people, what I'm glad to hear is that you're at least acknowledging it ain't the gun, but it's the person. And that's what I think the sheriff was trying to point out as well, was that once again, it's not the gun, but it's the person. But I also believe that once again, when you look at what the left is doing in some of these things, like I said, they and when it comes to things involving firearms, they want to blame the gun, right? Like I said, at least now they're blaming the people. At least I'll give them that. At least they're blaming the person, the racist. But by the way, just so you know, and what gets me with this is you call it white supremacy, Ray, but when I look at what they deem to be white supremacy, when I look at what the definition of white supremacy is in a lot of the anti-racism stuff, it's things like being on time is considered white supremacy. Believing in objective truth is white supremacy. Being on time, being accountable, logic and critical thinking, all of these, according to anti-racism, are considered Western white supremacy. So, do I believe that someone who believes in being on time is going to go out and shoot black people? No. Do you? I'll ask you that question. Or do you, like me, question their definition of white supremacy? I think that's a good question for you, Ray. I don't know. Maybe if you're still watching, Ray, I encourage you to chime in. Let me know what you think, because I think we're not as far apart on this as you might think. But once again, I want to have a consistent understanding of what it is that we're talking about here. And unfortunately, it's very, very difficult to have that when you have the people who are dealing with and talking about race and racism constantly changing the goalposts, redefining words and terms that we all know. And they do it largely in an effort to gaslight people who disagree with them, right? Because I honestly believe that when you and I talk about what racism is, or what we talk about what white supremacy is, and what they, the anti-racism, the DEI, critical race theory crowd, what they talk about when they talk about racism are different things. I honestly believe that. But the difference is I've taken the time to look up what their definition is and what the actual definition is. I'm wondering if you have. Because if you have, then we would probably be at least communicating on the same level. And it doesn't sound to me like we are. So I don't know. Maybe I'm making an assumption, but, I'm not going to be one to tell you that you are wrong. But see, and by the way, yeah, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. I'm not one to tell you you're wrong. Yeah, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. And by the way, I'm also one that will admit when I am wrong if you prove me wrong. And I'm more than open to the idea that I might be wrong about things. Because I think it's pretty arrogant to believe you can never be wrong about anything. It's just not going to be a gimme. I'm not just going to accept that I'm wrong because you told me I'm wrong, which is what Democrats seem to want you to believe, that we're wrong just because they say we're wrong. Anyway, moving right along, this next one is going to probably have your blood boiling. It's got my blood boiling. And this has to do with a federal court decision. And this is a federal court decision that has to do with LGBTQI plus curriculum. Here it goes. This is once again out of the Washington Free Beacon, where the federal court says that parents have no right to opt kids out of LGBTQ curriculum. A federal court ruled Thursday that parents who sued a Maryland school district have no right to opt their children out of classes teaching LGBT curriculum. The parents who sued Montgomery County Public Schools sought for the school district to reinstate a policy that allowed them to withdraw their children from discussions of books featuring LGBT characters. The district in January put in place the policy but reversed course in March. The court concludes the plaintiffs asserted due process right to direct their children's upbringing by opting out of a public school curriculum that conflicts with their religious views is not a fundamental right, ruled Judge Deborah L. Boardman, a Biden appointee to the U.S. District Court of Maryland. Democrats at the federal and state level have pushed an LGBT agenda in schools since Biden took office. Now, here's the thing, and I think Ray, I'm hoping, Ray, that you'll agree with me on this one. Parents are the primary educators, the first and the primary educators of our children. We have not abdicated that right or that responsibility just because we choose to send our kids to a public school. What we do is we delegate a portion of that. And one of the reasons why we have elected school board members, one of the reasons why we are open to public is because we are supposed to have a say in terms of the quality and in terms of what our children are learning. And what has happened lately, and in many cases, it's not local school districts that are implementing these things, but it's actually states that are implementing, like in California, implementing and putting these curriculums and whatnot that are basically changing the discussion when it comes to, or changing the bar of what exactly our kids are being taught. We have children right now who cannot read, write, or do math at grade level, right? In many cases, they're well below grade level. In the state of California, less than half, I believe it is, can do read, write, or do math when it comes to grade level. But what I think it's getting back to what I was talking about. Ray has some comments on some other stuff, but I'll get back to him in just a second. But we don't abdicate that when we send our kids to school. We have a right to say, look, here's the thing. I get it. Okay, look, same-sex couples, homosexuality is something that has existed in society since the beginning of time. And in sociological terms is at least worth noting the acknowledgement. But at the same time, it's also worth noting that not everyone, and not everyone of every religious, but not everyone of every faith belief believes in or supports that lifestyle. You don't have to have a commentary on it. You don't have to say one way or the other in society. To simply note that it exists is nothing wrong with that. But when you start saying that this is the norm or this is a norm and you start pushing it and indoctrination, and that's what they've really done. There is a lot of it, a lot of what they are pushing, whether it's through the Drag Queen Story Hour or it's through some of these books that, by the way, in many cases, most of the curriculum that people are objecting to, it has nothing to do with LGBTQ issues. It has everything to do with these books are actually pornographic. They actually include depictions or like textual depictions or actual pictures or drawings of minors engaged in sexual activity. Some of this stuff is gross, and it's not stuff that I would want any child exposed to, let alone that I would believe in exposing other people's children to. But they won't tell you a lot of that, right? They won't share that information with you. They won't put it out there. Anyway, Ray chimed in again. He says, white supremacy is a religion or belief system, not a person. Well, I don't know that it is a belief system. It is a mental illness, in my opinion. It is a wrong, but guess what? So is critical race theory. It is a belief system. So is anti-racism and DEI. They are all based, at least how they are doing it, how they are teaching them, is based on a belief system, not based on fact, knowledge, or understanding. I'll say that. I agree with you on democratic policy. It's turning California into a third world country. Yes, you are 100% right when it comes to crime. It is turning. And by the way, it doesn't have to be that way. I can just tell you right now. And by the way, just in case you guys are wondering, this is cyclical. This has happened before. It happened in the 60s. They became very permissive. We have very, very strict laws going through the 50s. In the 60s, they got permissive. In the 70s, it started to get out of control. In the 80s, it was way out of control. And that's why in the beginning of the 90s, bam, got hard on crime. Went 20, almost 30 years. It went 20 years. Once again, crime went down year after year after year. Then all of a sudden they decided, well, we need to get softer on crime. Started crime went back up, and we're not quite to the point where we're going to be implementing stricter laws in order to crack down on crime again. But once again, this is cyclical, and it seems like if we're lucky, hopefully soon, we'll be back in the cycle of holding people accountable. And once again, I think most Democrat voters agree with us. They don't want people locked away for petty crimes, but they're locked away forever for petty crimes. They don't want people. They don't want police abusing them. And I don't think, by the way, I don't think Republicans want that either. But I think where we disagree on is, okay, at what point do we start cracking down? At what point do we start getting serious with people who are committing crimes against others? At what crime level? At what age level? At what? And I think that nuance is where we ought to be having the conversation. And I think if we can start to have that serious conversation, I think you're going to find many Republicans and many Democrats are going to agree. Anyway, that's my thought. That's what I believe. Could be wrong, but I honestly believe that if we had to start to have those conversations, I think we would start to find more agreement. But I think that's only because things have gotten so out of hand that I think people are open to having those conversations. And this last one, when it comes to talking about our kids, and this is another one that's important. And this is why this goes back to some of the stuff that we talk about and why it is so important that we are setting a good, positive example for our children. There is a study that is out now that's talking about stress, the stress on our children, and the role that is playing when it comes to climate change. And in this particular study, it says worrying about climate change is damaging the mental health of young people. This is out of London. Worrying about climate change may be ruining the mental health of young people, a recent study reveals. Researchers in the United Kingdom and Australia uncovered that climate stress is leading to a surge in negative emotions among young adults 16 to 24 in the UK. However, the study finds this distress might also inspire young people to undertake positive environmental actions. In this research, experts from Imperial College London and the University of Queensland polled young British adults regarding their experiences with climate distress. Participants answered questions about their overall mental health, distress due to climate change, and the impact of climate change on their lives, and their involvement in environmental and climate related actions. All right, this was quick. Number one, children nowadays seem to be highly stressed, and I think part of the challenge is because we are putting on kids. And it's funny because, once again, I'll go back to the left. The left is constantly encouraging children to make adult decisions. They're constantly pushing data, information, slanted data, and information on kids, and then asking them to make adult decisions, right? There's a reason why some of this stuff stresses out kids, because kids are not in a position to be making these decisions. We want them to make decisions on their gender. We want them to make decisions on climate change. We want them to make decisions. I mean, the number of people who are pushing young people, the idea of someone 16 and as low as, in some cases, as low as 14, Democrats wanting them to be able to vote in elections. Once again, kids should be allowed to be kids. Kids should not have to deal with the sexual content that we are pushing on them in our schools. They should not have to deal with, they should not have to deal with the ideas. Kids in many cases don't even know. They recognize that someone looks different, but they don't recognize the concept of race, really the way that we do as an adult. But at very young ages, we want to push this idea that you are different from them, that you are an oppressor because you are white. You are oppressed because you are black. If you are Asian, well, it depends. If you're not successful, well, then clearly you're a victim of racism. If you are successful, well, then your people are white adjacent, or your proximity to whiteness has allowed you to be successful. This is the sort of stuff that we're working on indoctrinating and putting into our children at early age levels. And then we're wondering why they feel they have stress, right? We're talking to them about sex and sexual identity, and we're wondering why they have stress. We have books in their libraries that include sexual content that it really is outside of anything that children should be exposed to, and we wonder why they are stressed. We are leaving kids home alone, latchkey kids. We're leaving them home alone to take care of themselves, or in many cases to take care of their little brothers and sisters, to be parents because we're too busy out working. All of this is requiring children to make adult decisions, and then we are wondering why they are so stressed. At the same time, we're telling them, oh, there is no God, or you don't have to have any faith, or we're pushing secular humanism on them in schools, and fewer people are taking their children, are going to church, let alone taking their children to church, where you can learn that, you know what, you don't have to handle, if there's stuff you don't get, if there's things you need help with, things that you cannot control, that there is a God who loves you enough to help you get through this. Right? Nope. Can't do that. And we wonder why kids are so stressed. Yeah, that's why. All of that is why. So it's important. Look, let's let kids be kids. Right? Let's get the sexual gender identity stuff out of the schools. Right? Let them become adults, sexual, whatever, on their time, not on our time. Let number one. Number two, let's get the race and racial stuff out of there. Let's stop teaching them to hate one another, because that's what you're doing. In the places where this stuff has been implemented, it was funny. I'll just look in corporations and businesses where the DEI stuff and the anti-racism has been implemented. Not only has it not caused less racial tension, not only has it not created more diversity, there's actually been less diversity, and there's actually been more strife. There's been more racial division. I don't know what to tell you, but that's what's happening, because it's not working. It's not working. Anyway, that's just that. Once again, Ray chimes in. He says, the gatekeepers are lawmakers now. The public doesn't even get a chance to vote against this mess. Yes, Ray, you are 100%. And by the way, in many cases, the lawmakers are passing this stuff, and we never had a public discussion on it. Think about this. Think about the fact that in 2019, a lot of this stuff we weren't even talking about. Now it's standard practice in schools. It's like, if you dare say anything, it's like you're the nut job. I'm like, wait a minute, when did we have this public policy discussion? When and I'm on a school board. I'm like, when did we have this conversation? Because I don't remember when it just became a given that there were 72 genders. I don't remember that. I don't remember when it became okay to put pictures of children engaging in oral sex in graphic novels in middle schools. I don't recall having this public policy conversation. But somebody had it. Somebody decided it was okay. And there are a lot of people who are implementing it and putting it in place. And it ain't good. And clearly it's not doing well for our children. Because once again, we are requiring children, or asking children to make very adult decisions, to deal with adult concepts. And by the way, just in case you're wondering, many of you already know this, a child's brain, or an adult, really isn't fully formed until, for males, they're late 20s, sometimes 30s. Probably for me, maybe around then. And for most females, maybe early to mid 20s. But their brains aren't fully developed, and yet and still we're at the prepubescent level, asking them to deal with these very adult concepts. No. It hasn't worked, and it isn't working. And clearly, the data shows it's not working. All right, now we're going to go ahead and move on to our parting shots. Our parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. You can get your Hog Holster at hogholster.com. Make sure to use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. All right, our first one here comes to us Well, this is interesting. So this is pretty much a rundown of the Biden accomplishments. All right. You'll find this one to be quite interesting. Let's see. He says, well, he weaponized the DOJ, the FBI, and the IRS. He indicted his political opponents. He destroyed our energy independence. Inflation is through the roof. Crime is rampant. And he has divided Americans. He's weakened the military and sold out to China. I guess he has accomplished everything he set out to do. Okay, now I'm going to be honest. In fairness, I don't know that he set out to do this. He did what he intended to do, and this is the result of what he intended to do. And once again, it ain't good. And by the way, getting back to, and once again, Ray, I want to say this. I have no doubt that what that shooting dude did was clearly racist and was motivated by race and racial hate. But the other thing I'll say is this. There are a lot of things in this, in particular, once again, when you go to the anti-racism, DEI stuff, that we consider, that they call racism, that ain't racism. All right? And that opens the door to this meme. Scientists warn that within 6 months, humanity will run out of things to call racist. That is funny. And yes, it is true. And by the way, just so you all know, and I will continue to say this, this is an important thing to know and understand, because if everything is racist, nothing is racist. And by falsely calling things racist, you actually take away from those things that actually are. And once again, I will be the first one to tell you, yes, there is still racism. I just don't believe that it has the impact that it used to, right? I believe that the racism that my father experienced, who was a World War II vet, I only say that so you get an idea of his age and the area he grew up in. He experienced real racism. It was roadblocks. If what he experienced was true racism, what I've experienced has been speed bumps at best, right? And what my son and my grandchildren will experience doesn't even amount to a pebble in the road. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. But anyway, that's going to be it for today's show. But before we go, I want to go ahead and chime in and make sure you guys know about our sponsors. Please make sure to visit Hitman Industries at hitmanindustries.net. Rifle and pistol caliber barrels, along with Glock barrels. Check them out today. California Republican Assembly. Check them out at cragop.org. Be a part of California's future today. Join CRA. And then get your hog holster from hogholsters.com. Helping Americans wear guns. Use discount code The Rundown. Get your discount today. And then finally, outdoor gear, combat gear, all sorts of tactical gear, everything but the gun. You can get it at uscombatgear.com. Thank you so much for tuning in today, folks. We very much appreciate you. We appreciate you tuning in. Mike, always appreciate the conversation. Not Mike, I'm sorry. Mike, I do appreciate the joke. Ha. Very funny. Ray, appreciate you chiming in. I appreciate the conversation. As always, please make sure to tune in. Encourage your friends to do the same. And we're done now. So we will be back tomorrow on Taco Tuesday. Y'all have a good time. Till then.